Hello and welcome everyone to my channel CBSE SST Guide, and today we are going to discuss the important board questions and mark the answers for the second chapter in class 10 civics, which is federalism. Now before we begin, I'll do a quick recap from my last video. We discussed about power sharing, and federalism is a direct result of this power sharing, where the authority is not in the hands of the central government only, but is assigned to its regional or state governments. This is the essence of federalism. Now, coming to the questions. A very important question which comes as a 1 mark is, what is federalism? Or define federalism. The answer will be, federalism is a system of government in which the power is divided between a central authority and various constituent units of the country. Usually, a federation has two levels of government. One is the government of the entire country, that is usually responsible for a few subjects, and the other is the state level that look after the day-to-day administering. Right? So you can shorten this definition down, but more or less this should be the content to your question if it is asked, what is federalism? Now, coming down further, a very important, again, 1 marker that is asked is, what are the dual objectives of federalism? Or it can also be asked, give one objective of federalism. Here, the dual objectives of federalism is given. One is to safeguard and promote unity of the country, and the other is to accommodate regional diversity. So these two aspects are very, very important, and it is again the essence of federalism, which is why federalism is very much there. So the central government is there to promote unity, whereas the state governments are there to accommodate the regional variances and diversities within the country itself. Now, an important long question that is there, 5 marker question that is there, is explain the key features of federalism. It's a very direct question, and if you are able to write to the point, then you will get 5 out of 5. So let's take a look at it. So the key essential features of federalism is that there are different tiers of government, right? But each tier has its own jurisdiction, right, in matters of legislation, taxation, and administration. So here, of course, in our practical lives, you can give examples of our country and the jurisdictions of our state governments in the panchayati level, right? So the jurisdiction is divided, right? The third very important feature is that the jurisdiction of respective levels or tiers of government are specified in the constitution. So the powers of the various institutions that are there within our government, they are very much mentioned in the constitution. That is, the responsibilities and the powers of the legislation, the judiciary, the executive, etc. And a fundamental provision of the constitution is it cannot be unilaterally changed by one level of the government. So if the state government wants to change something about the constitution, of course it cannot be done. And interestingly, it cannot be done by the central government also until and unless there is an amendment, and there is a very, very hard process which is called amendment. Then the other important feature of federalism is courts have the power to interpret the constitution and the powers of the different levels of the government. So the court will decide the powers of the various governments that is there and sort of acts like an umpire, right? So if there are any disputes between state governments or among state governments, or state governments versus central government, then the higher courts are there, the Supreme Court is there to solve these kind of issues. Sources of revenue for each level of government are clearly specified to ensure its financial autonomy, right? So the taxes that are collected, a part of it goes to the state government, part of it goes to the center, and it's redistributed. So in this way, autonomy is maintained. Now we need to keep in mind that autonomy is very much an important feature of federalism. And of course, the other feature of federalism, which is already mentioned, the dual objectives. So you have to remember to add the dual objectives of federalism in case you get this 5-marker question, which is explain the key features of federalism. So there are 7. You can write any 5 if you get a 5-marker question, or you can write any 3 if you get a 3-marker question. So you are completely spoiled for choice, right? Now, a very important question, 3-marker question that is asked, and it's the same question that comes in, different types. So I'll read out the question. Why does balance of power between center and state vary from one federation to the other? Now you have to explain with examples, or state 2 agreements through which federations have been formed, give an example of each, or give 2 types of routes through which federations are formed with example. Now, in all of these cases, we need to mention the coming together federations and of course the holding together federation, right? So the coming together federation, so this entire part, right? The answer would start from here. There are 2 kinds of routes through which federations have been formed. So coming together federation is one of them. Example being USA, Switzerland, Australia, where states have come together on their own to form a bigger unit, which is, the examples already given. Vis-a-vis, of course, there's a second round where the large country decides to divide its power and assign power to its constituent states, which is known as the holding together federation. In this category, so the example would be India, of course. If we go down further, we will see that the examples of holding together federation is India, Spain, and Belgium, right? So when you are asked the question, give any 2 types or routes through which federation are formed, or why is it that balance of power between center and state vary from one federation to the other? Basically, it is asking one federation to another means different countries. So in this case, you have to mention these 2 very important types, which is coming together federation and holding together federation. Now coming down further, we get a very important question. Again, explain vertical sharing of power in governments. And this is one question that I discussed in detail in the last video, power sharing. Now, vertical sharing, of course, it means the center, state, and the local governments. Now, another way of asking this question is, how is legislative powers divided between the union and the state? So in this answer, you have to mention the union list where national importance, responsibilities of national importance are taken by the center only. Therefore, it is known as the union list. The second category is the state list, and by the name itself, you can understand that we are talking about state level responsibilities, right? So, for example, police, trade, commerce. And the third type is the concurrent list, where both the union and the state government can make laws on the subjects mentioned. So, forest, trade unions, marriage, etc. fall on that. Now, this would answer the question, which is explain how legislative power is divided between union and state. Now, there is something that we miss out while when we give too much importance to the union list, state list, and concurrent list, we forget about the residuary subject. Now here the residuary list, it can come as a 1 marker. So a question can be asked is, what do you mean by residuary list, and what category what subjects fall under this, right? So according to our constitution, the union government has power to legislate on residuary subjects. Now they are basically those kind of subjects which have come into existence after the constitution was made. So the constitution was made after our independence. So phenomena like computer software or nuclear power or solar power for that matter, these kind of subjects did not exist at the time when our constitution was made. Therefore, these kind of subjects fall under the residuary list. So if you get a question, a one marker question on what is residuary subject or define residuary subject and give example, then this would be your answer. There is another 3-marker question that is asked, why do some states enjoy special powers and who are they? Right? So in that case, we need to understand that apart from Jammu and Kashmir, so we tend to know about Jammu and Kashmir and Article 370. It is much more popular, right? But there is an Article 371 also, and it gives power, it gives special status to Assam, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh and Mizoram, right? Now it can come as a 1 marker, as in Article 371 gives special status to which of the following states, and you will get 4 options. So these 4 states, the names for in relation to Article 371 are very important. Now this is a 1 marker. If it comes as a 3 marker, then you have to mention what are they and why are these special powers through Article 371 given in the first place. So the answer starts with some states enjoy a special status. Who are they? So you name them: Assam, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh and Mizoram. What is the article? Article 371, and it is because of their peculiar social and historical circumstances. So their cultural heritage is very different from mainstream India. So these special powers are especially enjoyed in relation to the protection of their land rights and of course the protection that is given to the indigenous people. They are a minority. So their culture is given preferential conservation, and of course they are given employment within their states to protect their diversity. And of course you have to mention that Indians who are not permanent residents of these states cannot buy land or house there. It is essentially to protect the rights of the indigenous peoples who live. So this would be your answer to your 3-marker question. Why do some states enjoy special powers and what are they? Now coming further down, a very important question that is asked. Now this comes as a 5-marker. What policies strengthen federalism in India? So here you have to mention the language policy, how the linguistic states have been made, and the center-state relationship. So it is already given here. You can see that I have given a tick mark. So the linguistic states. So you have to mention that the very creation of the linguistic state was basically all based upon the need to create regional states based on the culture and language of the people, so that the people could feel at home within their own region. So linguistic states and how they were formed, right, very much important. So this part would suffice the point on linguistic states. The second part of the question, the answer would be center-state relationship. How is center-state relationship formed? Now, here, I mean, if you can see, it is a rather large paragraph. Now, obviously, even for a 5-marker, you would not have to write so much. It would be a waste of time and you would lose out on writing other questions because of lack of time. So in center-state relations, you can briefly mention that in earlier times, state governments did not have the right to exercise autonomous power. However, in the 1990s, we see there is a significant change. This period saw the rise of regional political parties in many states of the country, and this was the beginning of the era of coalition government, where no single party got a clear majority. So, and many parties together would have to form a coalition government. In this way, a single majority party's power was shared with many regional parties. So it sort of facilitated, a new culture of power sharing. And this, of course, is another way of strengthening federal system. Now, within this answer, of course, you get a one marker. So within this answer, you already have a one marker question, which is what is coalition government, right? So you can either take it from the glossary, and you can add also that how is coalition government formed in India. For example, in Lok Sabha, if a single party does not have a majority, then many other regional parties together form a government at the center, right? So this would be additionally your answer to a one marker question, what is a coalition government, right? Now, coming further down, another very important question that is important is, what were the major steps taken towards decentralization in 1992? Now, this is a very, very important 5-marker question, right? So, how was decentralization taking place after 1992? Now, of course, the points here are already mentioned, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, for 5 markers, you can write all of these 5 points. Now, let's briefly discuss them. It is constitutionally mandatory to hold regular elections to local government bodies. Seats are reserved, of course, for other backward communities and scheduled caste, scheduled tribes. And 1/3 of the position is reserved for women. An independent an independent institution called the State Election Commission is created to conduct panchayat and municipal elections. So you can see that power sharing in a federal country is decentralized to such an extent that not only is there a central election commission, but also a state level election commission. This is assigned during the elections of the panchayats. Now, the other point is the state governments are required to share some power and revenue with local government bodies. Otherwise, how will Panchayati Raj work out? Now, in case of, now we here come to the Panchayati Raj, the question that is asked is, describe the features of the third tier of government. Now, students sometimes get confused. Ki, bhai, what is third tier of government? Right? So you don't need to get confused. Please remember that the third tier of the government is none other than the panchayat, right? So the question can come in a twisted manner, describe the features of the third tier of government, or it can come in a direct manner, describe the features of the Panchayati Raj or local self-government. So here you have to mention the rural local self-government, which is popularly known as Panchayati Raj. Now here you have to give a sort of a flow chart of your answer. Carefully, each village or each group has a gram panchayat, then gram panchayats together from the gram sabha, and then you have many gram sabhas which go up to the district level, which is also known as the block or mandal, known as the panchayat samiti as well, and so forth, right? So we go from the very grassroots level, that is the gram sabha, then to the panchayati samiti, which is the block, and of course the district level, right? So many panchayat samitis together from the Zila Parishad, right? And members of the Lok Sabha or MLAs have some members within this district level Parishad, right? Similarly, in a similar vein, the local government bodies also exist in urban areas. So just like in the rural areas, you have the Panchayati Raj. In urban areas, you have the municipal corporation, which is headed by the municipal chairperson, known as the mayor. Right now, here I would like to show you the flow chart. So to make it easier for you, um, you can see here that the state government is headed by, of course, the chief minister. Then you have the district level government, which is also known as the Zila Parishad. Who heads it? It is the chairperson. Then you come down to the blocks. So many blocks form a district and many districts form a state. So the block is also known as Panchayat Samiti, block or mandal. It is headed by block development officer, although this is not mentioned in the book, but I've just given it, for an extra information. And then at the very grassroots level, you have the Gram Panchayat. The head is the Sarpanch. At the urban level, you have the municipal corporation, the head being the mayor. Right? Now, this more or less covers the chapter Federalism. Thank you so much for watching this video, and in the next video, I will cover the third chapter in civics. Thank you so much.